a ministry leader this week, actually, where she was describing some of the language she was hearing from another fellow ministry leader on the team of, well, what is mine? And what do I have ownership of? And what's my responsibility? And anytime you kind of hear those sorts of languages of my or mine, that those are indicators that people are thinking more like territory managers rather than teammates that are all trying to move the mission forward. Welcome to the LeadingSmart Podcast, Season 3, Leading in Real Time, which means Tim is on the road. Where are you, Tim?
Tim is in Irving, Texas, at Las Colinas is the area, at the Texican Court Hotel, which is a very cool vibe. I've been here 3 or 4 times for different cohorts and gatherings and things. And so sitting in front of my orange refrigerator.
That's right, the
living the life.
SMEG. The SMEG refrigerator. Those things are so cool. Yeah, we actually did one of our LeadingSmart gatherings there was that 2? No, that was last year, 2025, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
it is a very cool vibe. Fun fact, the 22-year-old version of Holly Hall at the time, lived like probably a mile from where you are right now. My first job out of college, I moved
No
from
way.
New York City to well, it technically was Valley? Anyway, it's like right there next to Las Colinas. So, yeah, that was many moons ago.
Is that when you worked for, was it My Love
No,
Radio
yeah, you're thinking
or
of you're
Christians
thinking
Are
of
Us Radio?
K-Love. I did not work for K-Love, but I worked for Salem
Yeah.
Communications, which was one of their
Oh,
competitors. Yeah. Mhm.
the competitor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
It's literally like right around the corner from where you are sitting right now is where a little junior account executive, 22-year-old Holly Hall would go into my office every day and try to convince people to buy radio advertising. And here we are
So
doing a
fun.
podcast many years later. All right. Today, we are going to talk about how silos destroy healthy organizations. Can you tell, Tim, that I feel passionately about this topic?
I can tell. We started talking about it before we hit record, and then it's like, wait, stop. Let's save the energy for the podcast, because you and I both have strong feelings about silos and what they can do to dismantle the health in an organization. But also, Holly, I have a hot take I'm going to throw in at the end, because I just in the last couple of years have determined that I think there is a time when a silo can be healthy.
Well, we'll see if I
I'm
agree.
going to try to convince you of that.
Convince me, Tim, because
Yeah.
I am going to say, without hearing your argument, that you're going to have to work pretty
I
hard.
absolutely think you will agree with me.
Okay.
I'm 99% sure you're going to agree with me at the end of this. So we'll save that for the end, but we can talk about what we do agree on for sure, is why silos kill healthy
And
organizations.
fun fact, I'm sure you guys know this by now if you've been listening to our podcast for any amount of time. Holly likes to show up to podcasts not prepared at all. Tim likes to show up being prepared. So Tim has 5 ways that silos hurt or healthy organizations. Is that what you said earlier? 5. Kill. Ooh,
Big
that might
word,
be more
kill.
intense than destroy.
Yeah.
And I haven't even heard these yet. So let's go along on the journey together. So what's the first one, Tim?
Silos kill healthy organizations because they replace mission with territory. And so instead of like, hey, we're all heading in one direction, on mission, towards the mission, agreeing on the mission, playing our part, we start to protect our territory. And you see this in, I've seen this in churches for 40 years. It's like working in and around and attending churches of you walk into a classroom or the kitchen or wherever, and it says this cabinet for women's ministry only, or this room not to be messed up because Awana is going to be in here on Tuesday nights. Or, we have these like territories, like real physical silo territories. But then you back up from that a little bit and just talk about some of our teams and how we can inadvertently build silos by saying, like, what's best for my ministry instead of what's best for the church, what's best for what our team's trying to do versus what's best for the mission.
I really like the word territories there, because that's exactly what it feels like. I was talking to a ministry leader this week, actually, where she was describing some of the language she was hearing from another fellow ministry leader on the team of, well, what is mine? And what do I have ownership of? And what's my responsibility? And anytime you kind of hear those sorts of languages of my or mine, that those are indicators that people are thinking more like territory managers rather than teammates that are all trying to move the mission forward.
And that brings us to number 2, which is silos break trust across teams. So what happens is assumptions go up, communication goes down, frustration builds quietly, and often people, especially in church, people don't fight loudly. They disengage silently and they withdraw. And this especially happens. I've had this when we were building the church at Granger. And initially, there's 4 or 6 of us and we're all in the same office. And man, like silos are hard when you're just all sharing space. But then there's 15 or 18 or 20 or 40 and then 80. And pretty soon, like in this 100,000 square foot building, we got people that we never even see except on Tuesday at staff meeting because they're in the opposite, their department is at the opposite end of the building. I hated that. Like we couldn't figure out a way around it, just functionally as far as the building goes. But we knew we had to work extra hard to keep silos from building up because our actual physical space made it easy for silos to creep
Yeah,
up.
that's so true. And just a shout out to, we've mentioned this a lot, but the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, he talks about how trust is foundation to any team relationship. And I mean, we know in any relationship, whether it's a spouse or a friendship, I mean, trust is the foundation. And it is so hard to build and it is so easy to break. And yeah, silos, I mean, it is so hard to rebuild trust when there have been walls built between teams.
Yeah. The third one is, I think, probably pretty apparent or obvious that silos slow down decision making
Hmm.
because we're not meeting as often together, and so we duplicate work. At times, we have 2 different teams working on the same thing in their own ways because they're trying to accomplish it with just their team. You can have conflicting priorities. And then you just have frustration because you're having to tackle things when you hear about it. It's like people are stepping on each other's toes, and then you're in these endless meetings of trying to figure it out, trying to get back realigned, and it's just slowing things
This
down.
one gets under my skin, Tim Stevens. I hate inefficiencies in communication and like redoing work. And one of the reasons why I see silos pop up is because people don't want to have meetings. So they say, I see it all the time where executives or senior leaders go, well, I don't need another meeting on the calendar. Like, why do we need to meet about this? And I'm like, because if we don't have a collaborative, team based approach to this, and number one, everybody else gets turned into order takers. And good luck retaining high capacity leaders if you're just going to turn them into order takers. Number two, then because I know what's going to happen, we're going to have 5, 10 meetings to clarify what the heck you're talking about because we weren't in the original collaborative meeting in the beginning. And that just really irritates me. I've been on the receiving side of that. I've worked with churches where we're on a advising perspective where we're trying to undo that culture. And yes, just to really be intentional about what does our communication need to look like on the front end so that we don't create silos. It is actually way more efficient to deposit that energy and time on the front end.
That's right. And number 4 of 5, we're home stretch here. Silos hide problems until they're expensive. And it's because you're not
Oh.
talking. It's because of what we talked about. The communication isn't happening. So we got problems, leaders that can't see the full picture because you've got these territorial leaders of departments that aren't sharing information. You have small cracks that can turn into organizational fractures. And we've all been in situations like that where you step into something and you're like, oh my word, this has been brewing for a while. I didn't even know about it. It was happening under my nose. I remember this years ago at the church where I was leading, and it was in our children's department, and I had a very territorial leader who I didn't know it, man. She led up well, and I thought she was probably one of my strongest leaders. And then started hearing kind of these rumblings of what was happening within her team and how she was really turning her team against our leadership, against decisions that were being made that were church wide. but looking like smiling and coming to my office in our one-on-one, like everything was great. And as soon as we started to unravel that and then just started to have some conversations, it's like, oh my word, this has been going on for a while. And it was just because we were siloed and I, as a leader, allowed it to
Yeah.
happen.
I've been listening to Brene Brown's most recent book called Strong Ground, and she talks a lot about how when she's working with an organization, she often gets prospective organizations know that she won't work with them if they will not allow her to go to the very frontline leaders and ask questions about trust. And I just love that because to your point, I find that a lot of organizations that have dysfunction that are big. I'm talking about like big complex organizations. There is a territorial leader close to the top who leads up really well. And so the most senior leaders, just like you said, are blind to it, not out of, and it's unintentional. It's not out of malice. They have deceptive, manipulative leaders below the executive team that are really doing a lot of damage and creating territorial silos down the org chart. And so, yeah, to really pay attention to that as the senior leader, we always want to lead with trust, but verify. If you have a hunch that, like, wait a second, I'm starting to see some patterns or hear some things that don't make sense lower down the org chart, let me lead with trust, but verify some things.
Yep.
What's number 5?
The last one, and this is very specific to church context, is that silos kill volunteer engagement. And so you think about our volunteers, they may work specifically in a area, and they probably do, but they experience the organization as one church, not as 12 departments. And so when that silo territorialism starts to come in and the message begins to feel inconsistent, their experience between one team that they work on or with and another team feels very incongruent and disconnect. The energy can feel fragmented. They're actually, they come to church to like get away from the politics and from the backbiting and from the gossip and the slander, and then they start to experience it maybe laden with prayer requests and kindness, but yet it feels icky when they get that close to it. And so they'll often say they often won't say, this particular ministry is broken. They'll just say the church feels off, like something's going on here, something's not right. And I think silos contribute to that in a big way.
Yeah, you also run the risk of burning high capacity volunteers out because the leaders aren't talking to each other about which leaders they're using. So it's like, "Hey, will you do this on Sunday? Hey, will you volunteer in our children's ministry? Hey, will you lead this big initiative?" And then they're like, "I've been asked by 3 different people to like what?" And that's very frustrating for a high capacity volunteer leader. Like, "What is going on, guys? You are clearly not on the same page." Yeah. Those are really
Yep.
good ones,
Yeah,
Tim.
and that's what territorialism shows up with what you just said with our people. Because if you think of that volunteer as my volunteer,
Mhm.
that's a silo, that's a territory, that's something you're guarding and protecting versus this is someone whose gifts and skills can be used for the church. Where's the best place for those to be used? Um, like I can't let them go. I can't let you have my volunteer versus let's sit with that person and just see what God's doing in their heart and life and what's the best place they could serve the overall mission of the church.
Yes.
That's where it gets kind of close to home.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. So true. Those are really good ones, Tim. Well
Okay.
done. But okay, yeah, now's your
You want to
hard.
hear? You want to hear?
Sure, I'm ready.
Okay. This is not going to apply to you if you're the senior leader of the
Okay.
organization. You should like silos are bad at any time and anywhere. And you as the senior leader, or if you're one of the highest level leaders at that organization sitting around the lead table, you need to fight till your last day against silos in your organization or on your team. Here's where I think if you're a mid-level leader, you have a team, you're not sitting at the highest level, you really can't impact the overall organization, but you absolutely can impact your team. And your organization is going through a crisis where there's crazy stuff happening up here and there's nothing you can do about it. Um, I think what you do is what you do in that moment is you say, I can't impact that. Like I don't have full control or partial control over what's happening up there. But what I do have full control over is my team. And so I think when there's a crisis happening, if it's a scandal, if it's just lack of health, if you got a narcissistic leader, whatever it is, and you're saying like I can't really do much about that, but what I can do is build health in my team. And that's when I think you kind of bear down and you put your arms around each other and you say, we are going to be a healthy team. We are going to refuse to play in the politics and whatever's happening. We're going to refuse to gossip, refuse to slander. We're going to be a healthy team. It was interesting when I went into Willow, I asked one of the executive pastors, I just said, tell me about the culture at Willow. And he says, which culture? And I said, well, the Willow staff culture. And he says, which staff culture? And he started describing, and there was two teams that come to mind. I think there was more than that, but there were two teams. One was our IT team led by a guy named Neil, and one was our Huntley campus led by a guy named Todd. And those teams, in the midst of all of the chaos that happened for 2 years and all of the leadership failures and all the leaders who had left and abandoned the team and just the hurt and heartache and bitterness and discord, there were these two teams that were super healthy, like healthy, I mean, people that were engaged, they loved their job, they loved coming to work, but it's because those leaders for that season just said, hey, there's nothing we can do about that, but here's what we can do. We can be a healthy team ourselves. And they kind of siloed in for a season. Now, the hard part about that is that should not last for the organization long term, and it's really hard to disentangle, to tear down those silos later, and you have to eventually if you're going to be a healthy organization long term, if you're going to keep those leaders. But Holly, I think you agree with me because I think you've been in organizations where there's things happening that you can't control, and where you've said, I just got to do what I can do and affect what I can impact, what I can impact.
Dang it, Tim. I think I agree with you. And I should have anticipated that before because I've heard you say that before and I do agree with you. And I was like, you started talking and I was like, dang it, I'm going to agree with him. You're right. But I will put an asterisk on it because what I don't want leaders to do though is to take responsibility for things that are not theirs. And you did do a good job of this, of saying, these are the things I can't control. What can I control? But I've also seen too many, myself included, too many high capacity leaders stick around for too long thinking that they can change something that they can't. And also like owning that it's theirs to fix when it's not. And so I just will say my encouragement is if you find yourself in an environment where you are this is what I say is like if you find yourself caring about the culture and protecting the culture more than the senior leader of the organization, that is an indicator that you you probably need to take your gifts and sets elsewhere because you have way too much to give than to be in an organization that doesn't value your care for a healthy culture. Um, and there are way too many healthy organizations out there that would love to have you and your contributions. So that's the only asterisk I would give is I just don't want people to stick around and get burned out and jaded and resentful over time because they have been amazing and protected their team from a really unhealthy spot. And then 5 years later, they look up and they're going, man, it's the same way it's always been. Why have I invested this much of my life into this thing?
Yeah, and if you're in that now where there's things happening that you cannot influence or you're not at the table to influence, or you have people on your team that are coming to you and they're super frustrated by what's happening in the organization, have them make a list of what do I have full control of, partial control, and no control. Like put it on a piece of paper, 3 columns if you want, and then have them come back and let's sit down and then let's take everything we have no control over. Let's just let it go.
Mhm.
For this season, we have no control over it. Let it go. The stuff we have full control over, and you probably have full control over more things than you think. Your attitude, how you express yourself, how your team interacts with other teams in the organization. So these are things we can control. These are things we can influence. And then we have some things partial control that we can also have an impact
You
with.
know, I love a framework and an exercise. So, to take what you just said and to put it into a practical exercise that you can do if you're listening and you're like, that's me, literally draw two circles that overlap like a Venn diagram on a piece of paper. And in the left circle, write concern. On the right circle, write control. And then in the overlap, that is write influence. So you have concern, on the left, influence and the overlap in the middle, and then control on the right. And literally everything that is on your mind, think of it and then put it in one of those 3 circles. And force yourself to really go, like you just said, Tim, like, what do I actually have full control over here? And what you're going to find is, in my own experience doing this exercise, almost everything that's keeping me up at night is in the circle of concern, not in the circle of control category. And it is very humbling and eye opening when I do this exercise and go, oh, the things that are really making me angry and frustrated and resentful and all of the things and like making my nervous system be on overdrive are all in my circle of concern bucket, and I need to pray over it and I need to let it go, and maybe I do need to say the hard thing or have the conversation, but to let it go. And very few things are in my circle of control, and if I could take all of that energy I'm spending on the concern and put it into control, I would be that much more effective as a leader. So just a really practical exercise that I'd encourage you to do that's super helpful for me.
Words, good words.
It
This has been a fun
has. Thank
topic.
you, Tim. Well, and you convinced me. Of course you did. All right, everybody. Oh, wait, we have,
She told me ahead
yeah,
of
I
time.
forgot about our random set.
I just, you told me like before we hit record, I said, I'm going to convince you that there are times when silos are good. And you said that there's no way you're going to convince me of that, Tim Stevens. So
That's
feel
so
like I won
true.
today.
That is so true. Okay, I forgot about our random segment for the day. Here's a really random question for you that I just made up. If
Or she did.
if you could choose a name other than the one that you have, so if your name was not Timothy, what would it be? And you can't say, "I would just still choose Tim." It has to be something else. What would your name be?
Matthew McConaughey.
I didn't say what
He's
person
just
would you
like
wanna
the
be.
coolest.
What name?
He's the coolest guy on the planet. So I just want his
Alright,
name.
alright, alright. Aren't you proud of me?
That's right.
I'm very proud of myself for that.
That's good.
Um,
What would your name be?
I I love, so this is funny because I love the idea of this name more than I think I maybe would enjoy actually having on my name, but I love, to your point, like, the character of Josephine March in the book and movie Little Women is, like, my favorite character of all time. And I love the name, like, Josephine and then, like, called Jo, because I think it's kind of a fun, like, tomboy name. Um, I've thought about if I have another daughter one day, I don't know if I could convince Elliot, but to name her Josephine. It's also a great Brandy Carlisle song. So, that's what's coming to mind for me right now. I don't know if Josephine Tate sounds right.
I've actually thought about this because my wife has known, I mean, she told me when we got married, she loves the name Julie and she wishes her name was Julie. And her name is Faith. Faith is a lovely name, but she wishes her name was Julie. So I'm like, never crossed my mind to think of a different name ever. But yeah, I'm going to go with
There you
Matthew
go. I
McConaughey.
love that Faith had a very,
Sticking to
like,
it.
it's Julie. That's what I want my name to be. That's so awesome. All
Yep.
right, everybody. Well, let's see. We are recording this on a Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday, and we had a wonderful webinar on succession planning. We had 120 some odd people sign up. We had 50 some odd people join us live, which blew us away. Really grateful for that many people took time out of their Tuesday to invest in such an important conversation around succession. We loved it so much that we're doing not that one, but another topic in June, the first week of June, June 3rd. I should know this, Tim. 3rd.
Third.
We are doing a
Mhm.
webinar on staffing and structure. So if you're listening to this and we talk a lot about staffing and structure here on this podcast, and you feel stuck or you feel great right now, but you know, like great high capacity leaders, that at some point your current structure is going to break and you're going to have to make some tweaks, come join us. We're going to kind of do some live workshopping, give you some principles to think about, poke holes in your own org chart. And we'd love to have you. So you can go to leadingsmart.com. There's a banner at the top of the page where you can click and sign up for that June webinar. And then for any of our Houston listeners, we are having a one-day experience. It's going to be a Houston Church Leaders Roundtable on June 4th, the day after the webinar, from 9 to 3 here in Houston. This is the first time we've ever done this. But we've gotten quite a few requests of folks that are like, hey, I can't make it to the 3-day gathering. If you ever do a more local version, let me know. So we're trying it. We're going to see what happens. And we will be covering 3 topics: succession planning, board governance, and staffing and structure, as well as, like we always do, we'll have a parking lot topic section where whatever's top of mind or urgent for the leaders in the room. It's limited to 25 people because we want it to be a very intimate setting. But you can also go to leadingsmart.com, click on gatherings at the top, read all about it, and join us there. It's very low. We've kept it very low cost. It's a one-day thing, and we want to make it accessible to leaders who might not be able to come to our 3-day gatherings because of cost. So it's $175, and we'd love to see you there. Anything else, Tim?
One last thing, just a quick shout out to a couple of our partners that help us do everything that we do at Leading Smart, including this podcast. But just want to give a quick shout out to Touchpoint, and that's a church management system. I was talking to a church last week that is like, yeah, our church management system, yeah, we got to replace it. It's a burr in our saddle. Reach out to the guys at the folks at Touchpoint. They have a really, I think, innovative solution. And I also want to mention Michael Best. These are attorneys. These are also the most fun individuals in the world, James Forrest and Kelly Story and Keith Richards, who are amazing attorneys and fun people just to be around. And they specialize specifically with churches and bylaws and governance and AI and policies and lawsuits and scandals and anything that you need help with. It's a fantastic team. We'd love to connect you. So let us know if we can connect you to either one of those organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening today. And make sure you are subscribed over at leadingsmart.com. Check out all of these resources, and we'll see you next time.